At 10,000 feet above the Colorado mountains, two figures plummet through the crisp morning air. One screams in terror as his parachute cord dangles uselessly in his hand. The other, a woman he barely knows, makes a split-second decision that will either save both their lives or kill them both. But what happened next shocked everyone who witnessed it from the ground below. Let me take you back to where this incredible story began, just 48 hours earlier. John Matthews adjusts his Italian leather jacket as he strides across the private airfield, his Rolex catching the early Denver sunlight. At 38, he's already built a tech empire worth over $200 million. Today, like every weekend, he's searching for the next adrenaline rush to fill the emptiness that money can't seem to touch. "Johnny boy," his skydiving instructor Rick calls out, slapping him on the back. "Ready to kiss the sky again?" "Always am," John grins, though something feels different today. Maybe it's the restless energy that's been eating at him lately, or the divorce papers his lawyer keeps calling about. "Who else is jumping today?" "Got a special group," Rick says, nodding toward the hangar. "Some corporate team building thing, plus a few first-timers. Should be interesting." John's eyes scan the diverse group gathering near the aircraft. CEOs in designer gear, nervous office workers checking their equipment for the third time, and then he sees her. Clara Jenkins stands apart from the others, her hands steady as she adjusts her borrowed jumpsuit. At 34, she carries herself with quiet dignity that her modest clothing can't hide. Her dark eyes survey the plane with careful attention, the way someone does when they can't afford to make mistakes. "Mom, are you sure about this?" her son Marcus had asked that morning over breakfast in their small apartment. At 19, he's home from community college for the weekend, worried about the risks his mother seems determined to take lately. "Baby, I've been playing it safe my whole life," Clara had replied, pouring coffee into a chipped mug. "Sometimes you got to do something that scares you to remember you're alive." What Marcus doesn't know, what none of them know, is that Clara learned to skydive 15 years ago. Back when she was young and fearless, before single motherhood and 2 jobs wore down her edges. She'd made exactly 3 jumps before life got in the way, but muscle memory runs deep. Now, watching John Matthews swagger around like he owns the sky itself, Clara feels that old familiar flutter of anticipation mixed with determination. This jump isn't just about conquering fear. It's about reclaiming a piece of herself she thought was lost forever. "First time?" John approaches her, his smile the practiced charm of someone used to getting what he wants. "Something like that," Clara replies, not meeting his eyes. She's cleaned houses for men like John Matthews. She knows the type, knows how they see people like her. Invisible until they need something. "Don't worry, it's like riding a bike," John continues, oblivious to her discomfort. "The rush is incredible. Nothing else matters when you're falling through open sky." Clara nods politely, but she's thinking about her mother's medical bills, about Marcus's tuition, about the eviction notice she's been fighting. For men like John Matthews, nothing else matters because nothing else has to matter. Little did John know that his casual arrogance would soon make him completely dependent on the woman he's already dismissing. 20 minutes later, they're strapped into the small aircraft, climbing toward jump altitude. The mountain landscape spreads below them like a painted canvas, all peaks and valleys and endless possibility. John chats easily with his regular crew, while Clara sits quietly, her breathing controlled and steady. As they reach 12,000 feet, Rick starts the final safety check. "Remember, count to 3 before pulling your cord. If anything goes wrong, don't panic. Trust your training." John has heard this speech dozens of times. He's made over 50 jumps, each one feeding his need for risk, for that moment when money and power mean nothing against gravity and sky. But today, as he checks his gear one final time, his fingers fumble slightly on the harness buckles. "You good?" Clara asks quietly. It's the first time she's spoken directly to him. "Always," John replies, forcing his trademark confidence. But something feels off. His hands are shakier than usual, his heart rate elevated before they've even reached the jump door. This decision would change everything for both of them. The aircraft door opens, and suddenly they're looking down at a world that seems impossibly far away. One by one, the other jumpers leap into the void, their parachutes blooming like flowers against the vast blue canvas. John steps to the edge, his usual pre-jump ritual of deep breathing doing nothing to calm his nerves today. Behind him, Clara watches with eyes that miss nothing, her own body coiled with barely contained energy. "See you on the ground." John shouts over the wind, and throws himself into the sky. For 30 seconds, everything is perfect. The familiar rush floods his system as he free falls through the crisp mountain air, the ground rushing up to meet him with terrifying beauty. At 5,000 feet, he reaches for his ripcord with practiced confidence. The cord comes away in his hand, limp and useless. John's world explodes into pure terror as he realizes his main parachute isn't deploying. He claws frantically for his emergency chute, but panic makes his fingers thick and clumsy. The ground is getting closer, and for the first time in his privileged life, John Matthews faces a problem that money can't solve. Above him, Clara sees everything. She watches his desperate struggle, sees the way he's spinning out of control, and makes a calculation that would seem impossible to anyone watching from below. But the real shock was still coming. The seconds stretch like hours as John's face contorts in terror, his hands frantically pulling at the useless parachute cord. Clara watches him spiral away, her training kicking in despite the chaos screaming through her mind. Without hesitation, she angles her body downward, cutting through the air like a knife toward the panicking millionaire. "John! John, look at me," she shouts over the howling wind, maneuvering closer to his tumbling form. His designer jumpsuit flaps wildly as he continues his desperate attempts to deploy the malfunctioning chute. "It won't open. The damn thing won't open." John's voice cracks with pure fear, a sound she's never heard from someone who seemed so invincible just moments ago. Clara's mind races back to a time she's tried to forget. 22 years old, fresh out of community college, standing at the edge of that same airplane door. Her instructor's voice echoes across the decades, "Fear is just another obstacle to overcome, Clara. Master it, and you master everything else." That summer, working 3 jobs to pay for her brother's medical bills, she'd spent every spare dollar on skydiving lessons. Not for thrills or bragging rights, but to prove to herself that she could face anything life threw at her. Even after Marcus passed away, those lessons remained buried in her muscle memory, waiting for this impossible moment. "Clara, help me." John's plea snaps her back to the present. She's close enough now to see the genuine terror in his eyes, not the calculated confidence of a boardroom predator, but raw human vulnerability. "I need you to stop fighting and listen to me," she commands, her voice steady despite their deadly situation. "I'm going to get us out of this, but you have to trust me completely." She thinks of her son Kevin, probably sitting in his dorm room right now, oblivious to the fact that his mother might not come home tonight. The housing notice tucked in her purse seems trivial now, 30 days to come up with 3 months back rent or face eviction. Those problems feel impossibly small at 10,000 feet. John's eyes lock onto hers, and something shifts. The arrogance melts away, replaced by desperate hope. "What do we do?" "We share my parachute," Clara says, already calculating the physics in her head. "It's risky, but it's our only shot." As she maneuvers closer, she catches a glimpse of something glinting as it falls from John's pocket, a small object tumbling away into the void below. For a split second, his expression changes from fear to devastating loss, as if that falling object carried more weight than their entire predicament. But there's no time to process what she's witnessed. Clara grabs John's harness with one hand while reaching for her ripcord with the other. The mathematics are brutal, her chute is designed for one person, not 2. The descent will be faster, harder, and infinitely more dangerous. Whatever happens, she tells him as her finger hovers over the deployment mechanism, "Don't let go of me." Just as she's about to pull the cord, a violent gust of wind catches them both, spinning their intertwined bodies in a terrifying spiral that threatens to tear them apart before the parachute can even deploy. Clara's arms burn as she fights against the rushing wind, her fingers finally finding purchase on John's emergency harness. The millionaire's face is a mask of terror, his eyes wide as he realizes she's actually trying to save him. At 10,000 feet, with the ground rushing toward them, there's no room for hesitation. "You need to trust me," Clara shouts over the deafening roar of wind. Her voice carries a strength that surprises even her. "Wrap your arms around my waist and don't let go." John's hands shake as he reaches for her, his usual commanding presence completely shattered. "I can't. I don't know how to." "Yes, you do," Clara cuts him off, her voice firm but compassionate. "Just hold on to me like your life depends on it." Because it does. As John's arms circle her waist, Clara begins the delicate process of positioning them both under her single parachute. The physics are all wrong, 2 people, 1 chute, and gravity working against them. But something deep inside her knows she can do this. Maybe it's the same instinct that kept her going when Marcus's father walked out, or when the eviction notices piled up on her kitchen table. The wind tears at them as Clara reaches for her deployment cord, but suddenly John's grip loosens. He's fumbling for something in his jacket pocket, panic overriding logic. "What are you doing?" Clara screams, feeling his weight shift dangerously. "My father's ring," John gasps, his voice breaking. "It's all I have left of him." Clara watches in horror as a small gold band tumbles from John's fingers, spinning away into the vast sky below. For a moment, she sees something she never expected in the millionaire's eyes: genuine grief, the kind that comes from losing something that can't be bought or replaced. "Johnny," she says, using a gentleness that surprises them both, "that ring doesn't define what your father meant to you." John's eyes meet hers, and suddenly she sees past the expensive clothes and arrogant facade. She sees a man who's been running from himself for so long that he's forgotten who he really is. Behind them, a flashback reveals John as a 12-year-old boy, standing at his father's hospital bed, promising to live a life that matters. The irony isn't lost on either of them now. "My dad was a construction worker," John whispers, his confession almost lost in the wind. "He saved for years to buy that ring for my mom. I've spent my whole life trying to prove I was more than where I came from, but maybe I've become less." Clara's heart clenches as she sees her own struggles reflected in his pain. "Success isn't about how high you climb," she tells him, adjusting their position as they continue to fall. "It's about who you lift up with you." But their moment of connection is shattered when Clara pulls the deployment cord and nothing happens. The parachute pack feels wrong, too light. Her stomach drops as she realizes that in all the chaos of reaching John, something has gone catastrophically wrong with her equipment. "Clara?" John's voice is small, childlike. "Why aren't we slowing down?" She checks her altimeter, 6,000 feet and falling fast. Her backup chute is tangled around John's failed parachute lines, and with their combined weight, the physics of survival are working against them. The ground below is no longer an abstract threat but a fast-approaching reality. "Hold on tighter," Clara commands, her mind racing through every possibility. She has one last option, but it's insane, desperate, and might kill them both. As they plummet through 5,000 feet, Clara spots something that makes her heart race: a small lake surrounded by trees, maybe big enough to break their fall if she can steer them there. It's a 1,000,000-to-1 shot, but it's the only shot they have. "John," she says, her voice steady despite the impossible odds, "I need you to help me steer us toward that water. Can you do that?" He nods, and for the first time since his parachute failed, Clara sees determination replace the fear in his eyes. But as they angle toward the lake, fighting wind currents and their own momentum, Clara realizes they're not going to make it, not unless she makes a choice that could cost her everything. The emergency parachute deploys with a violent jerk, the fabric snapping taut above them as Clara's calculated gamble pays off. The sudden deceleration sends them both swinging wildly beneath the canopy, but they're alive, they're descending, and for the first time since John's main chute failed, there's hope. "We did it," John gasps against her shoulder, his arms still wrapped tightly around her waist. "Clara, we actually did it." But Clara's focus remains razor-sharp, her eyes scanning the landscape rushing up to meet them. "We're not safe yet. See that clearing near the lake? That's where we need to land. Anywhere else and we're looking at trees or rocks. As they glide through the crisp mountain air, John finds his mind drifting to memories he hasn't touched in years. The rhythmic sound of wind against fabric reminds him of childhood camping trips with his father, before the business consumed everything, before success became synonymous with isolation. I remember being 7 years old, John says quietly, his voice barely audible over the wind. My dad took me camping in Colorado. He made me promise something that night, sitting by the fire. Clara adjusts their trajectories slightly, pulling on the parachute lines with practiced precision. What kind of promise? That I'd never let money become more important than people. That I'd use whatever success I found to make a real difference. John's laugh is bitter. I broke that promise so completely, I forgot I ever made it. Below them, something glints in the sunlight as it falls through the air. John's eyes widen in recognition as he watches his father's ring, the one that slipped from his pocket during their desperate mid-air maneuver, tumble toward the earth below. My father's ring, he whispers, watching it disappear into the forest canopy. It was the only thing of his I kept after he died. The only thing that mattered. Clara's grip tightens on the parachute controls. Material things can be replaced, John. Your father's memory, his values, that ring was just a symbol. The real inheritance is still inside you. As they descend through the final 1,000 feet, John sees the world differently. From up here, his mansion looks tiny, insignificant against the vast landscape. His problems, the board meetings, the quarterly reports, the social obligations, seem absurd when measured against the woman beside him who risked everything for a stranger. Clara, why did you do it? Really? Why risk your life for someone you barely know? She's quiet for a long moment, concentrating on their final approach. Because that's what we do for each other. That's what makes us human. My son taught me that. Every day he shows me that kindness doesn't cost anything, but it's worth everything. The ground rushes up to meet them now, and Clara shouts instructions over the increasing wind. Lift your legs. Keep them high. We're coming in fast. They hit the meadow with jarring impact, rolling together across the grass as the parachute billows and settles behind them. For several seconds, they lie still, breathing hard, staring up at the endless blue sky they thought might be the last thing they'd ever see. In the distance, John can hear the sound of helicopters approaching, the rescue crews finally catching up to them. Soon this meadow will be filled with paramedics, reporters, curious onlookers drawn by the drama of their survival story. But right now, in this moment of perfect quiet, something fundamental has shifted between them. John turns his head to look at Clara, grass stains on her jumpsuit, her hair wild from the wind, and he sees something he's never truly seen before: genuine heroism, selfless courage, the kind of character his father tried to teach him about all those years ago. Clara, he says, his voice thick with emotion, you didn't just save my life up there. You reminded me what living actually means. She meets his gaze, and in her eyes he sees not the satisfaction of a hero, but the quiet strength of someone who simply did what needed to be done. As the helicopters grow louder and their private moment draws to a close, John realizes that everything, his priorities, his purpose, his entire understanding of what matters, is about to change forever. The crowd that gathers at the landing site erupts in cheers and applause as Clara and John touch down safely in the open field. Emergency crews rush forward, but both are standing, shaken but unharmed. Clara's legs wobble slightly as the adrenaline begins to fade, while John stares at her in complete awe, still processing what just happened at 10,000 feet. Ma'am, are you all right? A paramedic approaches Clara, but she waves him off with a tired smile, her focus entirely on John, who looks like he's seeing the world for the first time. Within minutes, local news crews arrive, drawn by reports of the dramatic rescue. A reporter thrusts a microphone toward Clara, who's still wearing her jumpsuit, her hair disheveled from the wind. Clara Jenkins, you just saved a man's life in midair. What was going through your mind up there? Clara takes a deep breath, looking directly into the camera. Honestly, I was thinking about my son Marcus. He's studying at community college, working 2 jobs to help pay for school, and he always tells me, "Mom, when someone needs help, you help them." That's who we are. Her voice grows stronger. I learned to skydive 15 years ago when I was going through the hardest time of my life. I thought if I could jump out of a plane, I could face anything. Today, I guess I found out I was right. The reporter leans in, captivated. "What would you want people to know about what happened today?" "That we're all just people," Clara says simply. "Doesn't matter how much money you have or what job you do. When push comes to shove, we all need each other. And sometimes the person who saves you might be the last person you expect." John steps forward, his voice thick with emotion. "Can I say something?" The crowd quiets as he approaches the microphone. "My name is John Matthews. I've spent my whole life thinking I was self-sufficient, that success meant never needing anyone. Today, Clara didn't just save my life, she showed me how wrong I've been." He turns to face Clara directly. "You risked everything for a stranger. You didn't know me, didn't know if I deserved saving, but you did it anyway. And the courage you showed up there? That's real strength. That's the kind of person I want to be." The crowd murmurs approvingly as John reaches into his pocket and pulls out his father's ring, the same ring that fell during their descent, somehow miraculously caught in Clara's equipment. "This belonged to my father. He always told me to use my success to lift others up, to make a real difference. I lost sight of that somewhere along the way." He hands the ring to Clara. "I can't give you this, it's the only thing I have left of him. But I want to give you something else. I'm starting a scholarship foundation, and I want you to run it. You have a gift for seeing potential in people, for bringing out their best when it matters most. The world needs that." Clara's eyes fill with tears. "Mr. Matthews, It's John," he interrupts with a smile. "And I'm serious. You saved my life today. Let me help you change others." The reporter captures every word as Clara wipes her eyes. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," John laughs, "and for the first time, it's genuine. My company has been successful, but it's been missing something. It's been missing heart, missing purpose. You've shown me what those look like." As the cameras roll, Clara nods slowly. "All right, John. Let's see what we can build together." The crowd breaks into spontaneous applause as John and Clara shake hands, then embrace, 2 people from completely different worlds, brought together by circumstance, changed forever by courage. 3 months later, the Clara Jenkins Foundation has already provided scholarships to over 100 students. John's marriage is slowly healing as he applies the lessons Clara taught him about putting others first. And Clara's son Marcus just got accepted to his dream university, his tuition fully covered. Sometimes the most extraordinary moments happen when ordinary people choose to be extraordinary. Clara Jenkins proved that at 10,000 feet, you don't need money or status to be a hero. You just need to care more about someone else's life than your own comfort. What would you do if someone's life was literally in your hands? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible stories of everyday heroes who remind us what really matters.